today on your first day, and we're glad to have you participating in this webinar called Launching Your VISTA Service. My name is Khadija Carr.
And I am Andy King. We're coming to you today from Washington, D.C. at VISTA headquarters. You'll also see our colleagues Julie and Steve in the chat and Q&A to assist you, along with Kate Jordan and Chris Hawks, also here at VISTA. So now that you know a little bit about who we are and where we're located, we want to know where you're serving. So we're going to use the annotation tool to get a bit of a visual on your geography. So in a minute, you'll see the annotation tool appear on the left side of your screen. And to use it, first select the square icon that's in the drawing tool pane on the left side of the slide, and that will activate the annotation toolbar. And then we ask that you select the arrow next to the square to expand your shape options, and then select either the check mark or the X. Once you've done that, you've grabbed either the check mark or the X, then move your mouse to the location on the map where you are, and then just click. Please don't drag, because if you do, you'll cover up other VISTA's marks. And if you're unable to use the annotation tool, for example, if you're on a smartphone, then please just type your city and state in the chat panel. In this way, we'll get to see where everyone's located. All right, so you see that tool is there, and here we go. Always great to see the map filling up.
Oh yeah, it's filling up.
Yeah, we've got folks in Alaska and Hawaii, a few different islands in Hawaii.
South Carolina's looking pretty full as well.
Yeah, for sure. As well as the Great Lakes region, got a ton of folks there.
Nice.
Yeah, well, we have VISTA members serving in all 50 states, as well as in U.S. territories and in some tribal communities as well. And with all the people attending this webinar, it's great to see so many of you in so many different parts of the country. So as you look at the map and you look at where you're serving and get a sense of other VISTAs maybe in your state or in neighboring states, it's a good reminder that you can connect with other VISTA members through the VISTA campus using the map tool there on the campus, as well as through the discussion forums. So, all right, we've got one giant X in the middle of the country. So it looks like we've got the whole place covered. All right, thank you for participating in that little activity.
Nice. So now that we have a little bit of a feel of where the other VISTAs are serving, we want to go over the session objectives for today. So in this webinar, we will discuss and describe VISTA's mission and the VISTA program. We're also going to review a few of VISTA's recent accomplishments, identify the people and the resources that can support you, highlight action items needing your attention today and in the coming days, and of course, we will be administering the oath of service. Andy, are you ready to kick us off with that first objective?
Sure thing. So let us welcome you to your service with AmeriCorps VISTA. Today, you will join a national service program with a really rich history. There are about 340 VISTA members who are starting service today, and currently there's more than 5,000 VISTA members serving in rural and urban areas, as I mentioned, in all 50 states, several territories, and tribal nations. Volunteers in Service to America, or VISTA, has been supporting the change towards economic equity for more than 50 years. And our strength comes from the talent, motivation, and energy of our members, which, as of today, will soon include you. So let me thank you for stepping up to share your skills and passion to serve our communities. It's truly an honor for me to welcome you on behalf of the VISTA program. And I hope you feel the warmth and support from us, as well as from your fellow VISTAs who are on this session here with you today. So let's take a look at a few milestones in VISTA's history that have led us all to this moment.
Nice. So the VISTA program was born out of the civil rights movement and the war on poverty in the mid-1960s. And social equity and economic opportunity remains our mission. Our first volunteers were assigned in 1965 to Appalachia, Hartford, Connecticut, and the camps of migrant farm workers in California. President Lyndon Johnson, who you can see in the photo, said to those first VISTAs, "The initials of your organization spell VISTA. It is an appropriate name, for you will be opening up new vistas of hope for the poor, achievement for yourself, and greatness for your nation."
Now, fast forward about 30 years to 1993, and VISTA joins AmeriCorps, becoming part of a network of national service programs of the Corporation for National and Community Service, or CNCS. You may have heard of some of our grantees and partners, groups like Habitat for Humanity, City Year, Teach for America, as well as the Rockefeller Foundation and Service Year. And those are in addition to programs that CNCS manages directly, namely Senior Corps and AmeriCorps. And within AmeriCorps are AmeriCorps NCCC, AmeriCorps State National, and of course, AmeriCorps VISTA. You're joining the ranks of over 220,000 VISTAs that have already served. And VISTA alums have gone on to make significant contributions in other ways, such as serving in the U.S. Senate and the House of Representatives, heading up a Chamber of Commerce, founding and leading nonprofit organizations, hosting a program on NPR, and even writing a series of books you may have heard of called A Song of Ice and Fire, which some of you may also know as the television series Game of Thrones. And that's just to name a few.
We know that the VISTA program is committed to economic equity, but if someone were to ask you what VISTA's mission is, how exactly would you explain it? What really makes VISTA unique in the federal government? So we'll start with this, which is our elevator pitch. The VISTA program strengthens organizations that alleviate poverty through the mobilization of volunteers and resources. Let's talk a minute about organizations that seek the support of the VISTA program. Many nonprofits are under-resourced and understaffed, and particularly when you consider their mission. They're staffed by innovative, hardworking people who are making things happen with very few resources, and often organizations will turn to AmeriCorps VISTA for assistance in strengthening their infrastructure, developing processes, or generating resources. If they already had all of these things in place, they wouldn't probably need a VISTA. So the role of a VISTA member is really to support the organization's mission by providing solutions that enhance efficiency and build capacity by raising money, developing systems, recruiting volunteers, and creating lasting change. So by serving as a sponsoring organization, you are essential to VISTA's mission of strengthening organizations. And in addition to our mission, there are 4 principles that underpin the program. So the first is ending poverty. Every VISTA project and every VISTA member aims to end or alleviate poverty, one person, one family, or one block at a time. The second is empowering communities. In contrast to parachuting in and doing good things for people, VISTA members live among and involve community members in planning and carrying out the project. This is often facilitated by your sponsor, but strengthening and improving the community is our long-term goal through learning about values and beliefs and applying good community development principles. Third, we have creating sustainable solutions. Whatever you develop or create, whether it's a process, a system, or resources, you will develop them in such a way that people will be able to use them once you're gone. And finally, we have building capacity. All VISTA members aim to either increase the size of a project, increase the number of people served, improve the project's efficiency, or improve the project's impact on the community. Now that is how we measure capacity. Let's spend a moment going over capacity building and what that exactly looks like.
All right, in the VISTA Mission and Program tutorial that you completed, you learned that your VISTA service should focus on building the capacity of your organization as opposed to performing direct service. This is a unique aspect of the VISTA program which sets it apart from all the other AmeriCorps programs. Quickly, capacity building in essence is about helping your organization to do more with what they have so they can serve more people or operate more efficiently. Direct service, in contrast, is about providing tangible assistance directly to those who need it. So to make sure that you understand and have a good feel for what we're talking about, we're going to play a quick round of this or that to explore the difference between capacity building and direct service. For this activity, again, we're going to use the annotation tool, which you'll see appear in just a minute. And we're going to read a service activity out loud. And using your annotation tool, you'll click to indicate with a small x whether you believe the activity is capacity building or direct service. Remember, don't drag the tool. You'll make a really big mark and that'll obscure everyone else's. Just move your mouse and click. And remember, if you're using a cell phone or a tablet, the annotation function will not work. So in that case, you can type your answer into the chat box. All right, Khadijah, you want to give us our first question?
Yes, first up, we've got recruiting volunteers to build houses. Place your X to indicate whether you think that that activity would be considered capacity building or direct service. All right, so I see 2 lonely checks on direct service. It's now upgraded to about 5, but really the majority is saying capacity building. All right, a few more moments.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a mix in the chat as well. It's mostly capacity building with a smattering of direct service mixed in.
All right, let's reveal that answer, shall we? So the correct answer is capacity building, because you're not directly building the house, right? You're developing the capacity by recruiting volunteers who will be able to do the construction work and engage with the organization in other ways.
All right. Ready for the next one?
Let's do it.
It is, all right, how about delivering meals to seniors or people with disabilities in their home? Is that capacity building or direct service? And remember, use your X tool and just click. All right, we've got a lot, almost, oh, it looks pretty unanimous in the direct service category. And the chat agrees with that as well. All right, you guys are good. We can reveal the answer now. And as you all got it, it is direct service because in this example, you'd actually be doing the serving. You'd pick up the food and drive it and deliver it to people. In contrast, if you wanted to think about some capacity building activities related to this, it would be doing things like working to improve senior meal deliveries, putting together policies and procedures, or maybe developing partnerships to help out with that program. All right, very good.
All right, how about this? Teaching a financial literacy course to low-income individuals. Would you say capacity building or direct service? All right, looking kind of split again, but more on the direct service end. Let's see what. All right, the responses continue to rack up on the direct service end. Let's reveal that answer. All right, so the correct response is direct service because this example involves hands-on educating individuals, right? Some capacity building activities that a VISTA would do would include things like developing the curriculum for the financial literacy course or connecting with organizations who can refer the clients to take the course or even identifying the financial literacy experts to advise the curriculum development.
All right, good work. How about this, organizing a fundraiser, some kind of a fundraising event or program? All right, wow. Right out of the gate, we've got a lot of folks in the capacity building category,
Nice.
both in the chat and on screen. A couple of direct service votes. Oh, I saw one disappear. All right, well, I think you all have got it. Let's reveal the correct answer. And of course, organizing a fundraiser is capacity building work because raising resources is in fact building financial capacity. The money raised is going to build the resources of the organization so that it can do its work. All right, we have one more.
All right, let's try for setting up partnerships in the community. Capacity building or direct service? Quick responses, I like it. Seeing a lot of capacity building in the chat. I see maybe one or two direct service. None on the screen so far. I see. All right, it's continuing to be capacity building, so let's see if you are correct. The correct answer is capacity building. Since you're striving to link the community with organizations, people, funds, and more to eliminate poverty and make a positive difference. So you're building the capacity by helping the community members find new ways to get things done and new partners to help them do it. Wow, so that was a really great activity. You all responded very well, and I really appreciate you all for participating.
All right, good job. So let's shift gears a bit and take a look at what you're going to be doing in your individual VISTA project and how that connects to the mission of the VISTA program. If you believe that we have a responsibility to bring an end to poverty, and if you're committed to working with communities, then you are in the right place.
So we'd like you to reflect for a moment on the key principles of the VISTA program. These 4 principles guide community development for us. Community work requires coordination, even collaboration, and working together towards long-range goals. As you think about these principles that we've talked about, which one resonates the most with you? So we'll now invite you to use the chat panel to share which of the principles resonates with you, and in a few words, include why, right? Maybe it's ending poverty. Before the session started, a lot of you mentioned that you joined VISTA because you wanted to help people move out of poverty. Or is it empowering the community that resonates with you? Is it a passion of yours through working with community stakeholders to identify needs and putting those needs into action with the help and support of the community? Or perhaps capacity building is at the heart of who you are and what you do. Maybe you see a project and can identify a plan to increase its effectiveness and engage more individuals. Or maybe it's sustainability that draws you to your VISTA position. Maybe you have an eye for the process and developing them in such a way that they can be used once you've left. Let's see what folks are saying.
Yeah, there's quite a lot. I mean, obviously we've got a big group here, but it seems like sustainability is really high for folks, and that ties in with capacity building as well. And a number of you weren't able to pick just one of those principles, so it's like, yeah, it's some of the empowerment, but also ending poverty, or it's this in order to do that. So it sounds like you've all done a lot of good thinking about this.
Certainly. And really the good thing is that all of these are important and all of them are useful. So hopefully as you look at what you'll be doing as a VISTA member, you'll be able to pinpoint activities that touch on some or all of these principles. And you'll be able to talk about how to sustain the work you're doing by building capacity, empowering communities, and how these efforts contribute to ending poverty itself. Progress in this type of work is pretty slow and incremental, and it's important to know that our work isn't just about fixing stuff, it's also about sharing perspectives and skills. And the results of your work as a VISTA member may not be apparent immediately nor happen overnight. I know as a VISTA alum that this can be frustrating at times, but once you step back, you'll be able to see the larger changes that have resulted from the work that you put in.
All right, so let's focus now on what it is that you will be doing as a VISTA. And the best way to do that is by reviewing your VISTA assignment description, or your VAD. Each VISTA member has a VAD that was created by the VISTA project. You might have received your VAD during the interview and selection process. Or perhaps your VISTA supervisor gave it to you today. If you don't have it, you can download it from your account in My AmeriCorps. All VADs include the following three elements. There's a project goal, there's usually several objectives, and then under that are a number of member activities. So the project goal is related to, or sometimes identical to, the overall goal of your VISTA project. And the objectives describe what you will achieve by the end of your service year. The objectives are a bridge between that overall project goal and your specific member activities. And then the member activities, of course, specify what it is that you will be doing this year. Those activities add up to the objectives, and the objectives to the goal. Each of you has your own VAD, no matter how many VISTAs may be serving or have served at your project. Now, because the VAD is your work plan for the year, we strongly recommend that you focus on it with your supervisor in the next few weeks. And we also recommend that you refer to it throughout your year of service. There's a worksheet that's part of the early service coursework that's on the VISTA campus. It's on that Starting VISTA page. This VAD worksheet can help you tease apart the various elements of your VAD. And it provides a nice framework for you and your supervisor to discuss your tasks step by step. So it's a good idea to download the worksheet and start filling it out so that you're well prepared to discuss your assignment description with your supervisor. If you don't already have a meeting set up with your supervisor, here's a good reason to schedule one. That is a great place to start a conversation about your year of service. And this is the week that you should be introduced to your VISTA supervisor, to other VISTAs, if there are any others in your project, as well as to the staff and volunteers of the organization who you may be working with throughout your year.
We'd like to hear from you again. Based on what you know about your VAD, your VISTA assignment description, what will you be doing as a VISTA member? What steps, tasks, or activities will you be doing to help eradicate poverty, build capacity in your community, and in your organization? Again, you can type your answer in the chat panel so that others can see, and this can be a couple of words or a brief sentence if you so choose. I see writing grants, coordinating volunteer days, providing resources for families with children with disabilities, affordable housing, healthy futures, education. Wow.
Yeah, so it's kind of a mix. I mean, some people are talking about the area in which they're working, like homelessness or housing, and then others are really talking about their specific activities. You know, like I'm going to be writing grant proposals, I'm going to be raising funds. So it's good to know the area that you're serving in and you know what your goals are, but at some point you're going to have to drill down to those specific tasks and activities.
Certainly. It's really remarkable to see such a wide variety of responses and how much VISTAs do. It's really exciting to be a part of such a great group of folks. And as you get started in your VISTA service, you will be focusing a lot on what, So we've got a brief question for you. And you know, there's a lot of really wonderful things that you mentioned in the chat, and so really what we're wanting to ask is, what if? What if you plan a community meeting? If you bring people together around a common issue, what's the next step, and what is the goal?
Or what if you write grant proposals? How will writing a grant proposal actually make a difference in your community?
What if you recruit volunteers? Why specifically is it important to have other people assisting with that project?
And what if you create a lesson plan? What purpose does the lesson plan achieve, and how will it impact others within the community?
So really the big question is, what if? And we ask this because we want you to reflect on why. Think about this question in your service activities and when reviewing your VISTA assignment description, as well as when you're talking with your supervisor. Taking time to think about the reason behind your activities and the purpose of these things will really help you to create the intended impact of your VISTA service.
And the impact you make this year depends largely on you. It also depends on your community, of course, your VISTA project, and a lot of times on good luck. So think about the what if when answering this next question. What impact do you hope to make as a VISTA member? And by impact, we mean what will be the end result rather than what activities will you perform. So what will happen as a consequence or an outcome of your success? Again, you can use the chat. All right, so we're seeing some results here. You know, underserved children will have sustainable programs for after-school activities. Increased funds will support the activities of the organization.
More healthy and engaged neighborhoods, yeah.
Yeah, they're coming so fast it's hard to keep up.
Truly. Let's see, more people will know about Makerspace, where they can go to learn useful skills.
Yeah, people have a community that they didn't have before, healthier community members, less food insecurity. So yeah, these are very tangible, very specific things. So keep your responses coming. These impact statements really are inspiring, and hopefully keeping your intended outcomes front of mind will inspire you as you move through your VISTA year. And speaking of outcomes, let's take a look at some of the things that VISTA members have accomplished recently so you'll have a sense of how your accomplishments add up to the bigger picture. And keep in mind, these are the measurable items, not the intangibles, which are often the most interesting. So these are from the year 2017. VISTAs have raised $206 million in cash and in-kind contributions for their sponsoring organizations. And that's more than double what Congress appropriates to AmeriCorps VISTA to run the whole program. So that's amazing. We're the only federal agency that takes the federal investment and doubles it. Also, VISTAs have recruited, trained, and assigned some 800,000 community volunteers who collectively served more than 8 million hours. The National Center for Children in Poverty estimates that 16 million children in the U.S., about 1 in 5, live below the poverty line. VISTA members made it possible for their sponsors to serve 3 million of those children in after-school programs, through tutoring, and assistance in food security. Programs supported by VISTA members served 140,000 veterans and military families. And in a single year, about 8,500 VISTA members built the capacity of more than 4,500 nonprofits and public agencies. And about 70% of those VISTAs did so in their own hometown. Since 1965, more than 220,000 VISTA members have served. And these are just some of the remarkable impacts that VISTA members like you have made, are making, and will make.
All right, we've got a quick review before we move on. Let's review what we've covered. We looked briefly at how VISTA relates to other national service programs. We then dove into the VISTA mission and its key principles and discussed how they relate to your VISTA assignment description. And finally, we shared with you some of the impact VISTA members have had in the past year. Now let's shift to looking at your rights and responsibilities as a VISTA member and some sources of ongoing support for you during your year of service. Let's talk about some important issues that you learned about in the Civil Rights and Responsibilities course on the VISTA campus. The VISTA program takes very seriously the issues of discrimination and harassment. So we want to make sure you're all aware of what your rights are as well as your responsibilities. As you learned, discrimination is when receiving treatment that is different because of a difference in sex, race, or any other protected class. Harassment is behavior that is severe or pervasive and creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive environment. If you believe that you have experienced or witnessed discrimination or harassment, and if you feel safe and comfortable doing so, here are steps you should take. Approach and talk directly to the person you suspect of engaging in harassing or discriminating behavior. If that does not work or you do not feel comfortable doing so, you should talk to your VISTA supervisor. If you cannot go to your supervisor, or you do and the matter is not resolved to your satisfaction, you should contact your CNCS state office. Finally, you can contact the CNCS Equal Opportunity Program, or EOP. Rights go hand in hand with responsibilities. So while you have the right to a service experience that is free from harassment and discrimination, you also have the responsibility not to subject anyone to harassment or discrimination. So please be conscious of how your words and actions might be perceived by others, whether they're fellow VISTAs, staff at your site, or community members. And as a reminder, the contact information you see on the slide is included in the handouts for this session. You will also find this information in the VISTA Member Handbook. AmeriCorps VISTA is a federal program, and like anything supported by taxpayer funds, we need to ensure that the program is well run and doing what it's supposed to. And of course, spending our money wisely. Like all federal agencies, CNCS has an Inspector General whose office is responsible for preventing waste, fraud, and abuse. Most VISTA supervisors and sponsors are familiar with the rules and do a good job of following them, but sometimes things can get off track. There are a few red flags that you should be aware of. If you are being asked to take over the work of a staff person, say someone who is out on extended leave, that would be considered replacing staff and is not allowed. Or if most of what you're doing is administrative support for someone else, that's also not appropriate work for a VISTA member. You should be focusing on the things that are outlined in your VISTA assignment description, which ties directly to the overall project plan that was approved by the Corporation for National and Community Service. Finally, the majority of your work should be capacity building, not direct service. From your coursework and today's activities, you now have a good idea of how to distinguish the two, so be sure you're focusing on capacity building. If you feel like you're being asked to do things that are not appropriate for VISTA members, first talk about it with your supervisor. From there, you can talk with your CNCS state office, and if the issue isn't resolved or you want to remain anonymous, you'll need to contact the CNCS Office of Inspector General. This is one of your responsibilities, to say something if you see something.
And speaking of responsibilities, here's one more thing you're responsible to do. We mentioned last week that you will need to submit your fingerprints so we can run a background check. And we do this, of course, to protect the community members and volunteers that we work with, yourselves included. So let's talk about how to get fingerprinted. Your supervisor has your fingerprint kit that includes 2 fingerprint cards, a disclosure form, and a set of instructions. You should also be provided with a UPS label so that you can send your fingerprints into VISTA headquarters. So you're responsible for getting fingerprinted and submitting your fingerprints to VISTA headquarters. You go to a local police station, a sheriff's department, or other location that can do fingerprinting at paper and ink style and bring those fingerprint cards with you. Your prints must be submitted in ink on our cards. We cannot accept electronic submission or fingerprint reports. We need the actual original prints. And the VISTA program provides you with a $25 fingerprint subsidy, and that will be included in your first living allowance payment. Now you have 30 days to get this done, but please do it as soon as possible. The deadline to submit your fingerprints, that means that they need to be received here, is Wednesday, July 10th. And you should know that if you don't submit your fingerprints on time, it could result in termination from service, so please don't let that happen. And if your supervisor doesn't have the fingerprint kit or is missing a shipping label, your supervisor should contact the CNCS state office immediately to get those sent out. Now, the other part of this process is comparing the background check results to what you disclosed on your AmeriCorps application. Now, you might recall that when you applied, there was a screen that asked you if you had ever been convicted of a crime. Now, it's possible that you didn't disclose everything in that AmeriCorps application, perhaps because you thought you needed to include only recent arrests, or because you thought that a DUI is a traffic violation and didn't count, or because something happened when you were a minor and you were told that it was expunged. So if you fail to disclose any conviction in your AmeriCorps application, you're going to need to fill out the member disclosure form that's included with the fingerprint cards and send that in as instructed. So that way, when your FBI report comes back, you'll be able to compare the results of the report to your disclosures in the application and on that member disclosure form. If everything aligns, you won't hear from us and you'll be good to go. And a minor offense with no relation to your assignment will generally not bar you from service. If there is a conviction that you have not disclosed to us, it could be grounds for dismissal, and we will have extensive follow-up to do with you. All right, so let's shift again, and on a lighter note, one of the greatest things about being an AmeriCorps VISTA is showing off your VISTA pride. You never know where you may make a connection with someone who knows about the program. So we invite you and ask that you put the AmeriCorps VISTA logo on your business card, use it in your email signature, and make sure it's on your organization's website in their brochures. The more visible you are as a VISTA member, the more support you get for your project and for the AmeriCorps VISTA program as a whole. And that could mean more VISTA members and communities doing the work that needs to get done. The Helpful Links handout includes links to some business card templates, publications, and gear that you can use in your office and to represent VISTA out in the field. And don't forget to take pictures when you're serving and share them with us through our Twitter and Facebook accounts. We may well share your story or retweet your photo. And before long, you will receive an email with instructions on how to order your free, yes, I said free, VISTA polo shirt, a lapel pin, a tote bag, a t-shirt, a water bottle, and a journal. And you should get that email within about the next 2 weeks once your oath form is submitted and all the forms and courses have been completed. So watch your inbox for that email.
Let's recap some of the many sources of support for VISTAs. You already know about My AmeriCorps and the VISTA campus, and this graphic on the slide is a reminder of the list of resources that's on the Starting VISTA page of the VISTA campus. A direct link is also available to download in the Helpful Links document in the Handouts panel. Whether it's questions about sick leave or healthcare benefits, pay schedule, or policy, this list points you in the right direction. For benefits questions, you can also contact the benefits administrator directly, and if you've exhausted all other options, you can contact the VISTA Member Support Unit through the National Service Hotline. They are here to support you throughout your year of service. Now, let's look at what's ahead for you as you get into your VISTA service. There are 7 elements of early service coursework that we ask all VISTAs to complete. They are self-directed and intended to really help prepare you for success. The first is a guide to help you make the most out of your on-site orientation and training, which is the training that's provided by your supervisor to prepare you for what you'll be doing at your site. There's also the minute intro exercise, which helps you to develop your elevator pitch so that you can clearly and succinctly explain to other folks who you are and what you're doing as a VISTA member. There's also the resources on theories of change, which looks at a variety of ideas about what causes poverty and theories on how to reduce or eliminate it. There's also a video on how poverty is measured in the United States and a worksheet to help you unpack your VISTA assignment description and use it as a foundation for your work plan for the year. You'll also find a tutorial on how to understand the community you're serving by looking at demographic data and research. And you'll see that there's a video with Dr. Stephen Pimper sharing 13 lessons about poverty that came out of the VISTA program. The worksheets and the resources really dovetail nicely with your on-site orientation and training and can provide structure for the first few meetings with your supervisor. We're not going to collect the worksheets, so don't worry, but they are there for you and your own benefit, so we hope that you will use them. And looking a little bit further into the future, VISTA offers an in-service training, or IST, to members that are early in their service terms, typically between months 2 through 5 of service. IST addresses common training needs among VISTA members. It provides an environment for VISTA members to discuss their projects and ask questions in person. It also offers a forum for VISTAs to connect with their peers. And at this point in your service, participants should be able to identify the training needs that you have, and you'll also be able to apply knowledge from IST during the remainder of your service term. So these trainings are optional to members. They're not required. But there are 4 core modules and an additional 6 elective training modules that we at CNCS have developed. And you will be notified of the in-service training opportunities based on your geographic area. We will send you an email, so please be sure to keep your eyes on your email addresses and also keep your email address up to date in your My AmeriCorps portal. It's where we gather all of the information for how to send you things. So if it's not updated, you will likely not receive this information. And for these trainings, your supervisor must approve of your attendance in order for you to be able to go. So as you go over your VAD with your supervisor and undertake initial activities, you can really kind of begin to think about some potential areas of training that you might need that IST would benefit from.
All right, so let's talk about some action items that are coming up for you in the coming days, some even including today. So there are a few key decisions and actions that you're going to need to complete, and these first few relate to your VISTA benefits. So first of all is your direct deposit. As we mentioned last week, your direct deposit details need to be absolutely correct in order for you to be paid on time. Any tiny mistake can result in a 2-week delay. So again, we urge you, please double check that the information that you've listed in your account in My AmeriCorps is correct. And also as a reminder, your first living allowance pay date is June 28th. And be aware that if you're paid directly by your VISTA sponsor, your pay schedule could vary. So in that case, check with your supervisor. Second of all is your end of service award. You know there are the two options, right? The cash stipend or the education award. If you chose the cash stipend, today is the last day for you to change your selection. If you choose the education award, then you have 10 months to change your mind. So if you're not sure which one you want, pick the education award and you can always change it later. The third is health care. So you will be eligible for one of the benefits that VISTA offers, and which one you're eligible for depends upon whether you already have health insurance or other health coverage. If you have insurance, you can enroll in our health care allowance, which reimburses you for out-of-pocket expenses. And if you don't have insurance, then you can enroll in our health benefit plan. So in about a week to 10 days, you're going to get an email, this one from IMG, and it will have instructions on how you can enroll. And you can refer to the benefits section of the VISTA campus for more details on all of these benefits. And next, there are a few other action items that you'll work on over the next couple of weeks. So first is to set up a recurring meeting with your supervisor to discuss the VISTA project and your progress on a regular basis. Second, as Khadijah mentioned, is to complete the early service coursework that she just talked about. You'll find it on the Starting VISTA page of the VISTA campus. Be sure to download a copy of your VAD, your VISTA assignment description, because that'll help you complete the on-site orientation and training worksheet as well as the VAD worksheet. Third, please get fingerprinted and submit your prints as well as a member disclosure form if applicable, and those have to be received here within 30 days. And fourth, order your VISTA gear. As mentioned, you'll get an email with instructions for ordering your gear in about 2 weeks.
Now let's discuss the oath of service. So the oath of service is required. It's an important step in you becoming a VISTA member. So because of this importance, we're going to, at this time, pause the chat. We're going to be posting instructions in the chat regarding how you will need to complete and submit the electronic oath. And we want to make sure that everyone sees this information that we're sharing. So once we're done with the oath, we will open the chat back up for comments. If you have any questions at this time at all, you can go ahead and type them into the Q&A, and our team will be sure to either answer them as soon as we can, or we'll hold them to be answered near the end of the presentation.
All right, so you're ready now to take the oath of service, but before we administer the oath, I have a few instructions for filling out the electronic oath form. So first, be aware that immediately after the conclusion of this webinar, you will receive an automated email alerting you that your electronic oath has been unlocked at my.americorps.gov, and then you would need to log in to complete and submit your electronic oath form. Now, whether you see the email or not, you should log into your account within about 15 minutes of the webinar to complete and submit the form. And it must be done today, right? So please, as soon as we're finished, go into My AmeriCorps, log in, and complete the oath. Second, the specific instructions that we give you on the next slide may seem obvious, but you'd be surprised at the things that people submit. So if you can, you might want to write down some information, take some notes on it, or take a picture of this next screen so that you'll have the information you need to complete your oath form correctly. Failure to submit a correct electronic oath could result in a delay of your becoming a VISTA member, and that could also delay the start of your benefits. So please pay close attention to the information on the next screen as we will describe it verbally. All right, so here are the instructions. First of all, for the date of your first day of service at your project site, you will enter today's date, which is June 10th, 2019. And for the name of the CNCS official who administered and witnessed the oath, you will enter Khadija Carr. And you see her name is spelled there, Khadijacarr. Please take note of the correct spelling to ensure that you type this in the oath form correctly. And then in the electronic signature field, type your full legal name so that it matches the full name that you used in your AmeriCorps application, and it's what is listed in your account at my.americorps.gov. Check the box under the electronic signature to verify that this is a legal signature on the electronic oath form, and then click the Submit button. Remember, it's critical that you correctly complete and submit this electronic oath form today, because if the name or other information on the form is not correct, it will not be accepted. So please make sure you do it right. All right, back to you, Khadija.
Now that the logistics are out of the way, let's consider the oath that we are about to take. You should not take this oath lightly. This is the same oath that's being taken by all federal employees up to and including the Vice President. The President's oath is a bit different. So in the oath, it includes the phrase, to defend the Constitution of the United States. Defend. This is not a call to arms. For some, in some positions, it may be. But for most of us, defense of the Constitution may be just the opposite of using arms. We are pledging to defend the document that contains our civil rights. The oath also includes the phrase, against all enemies. Enemies. In the context of VISTA, the enemy is poverty. Okay, we've just got two more things about the oath. First, you may replace the word swear with the word affirm if you so choose. You may also choose to omit the phrase, so help me God. I do also want to recognize that since we're all in different locations around the country, scattered in so many different sites, we don't really have the benefit of hearing each other's voices as we recite this. But it is pretty cool to know that as you're taking this oath, about 340 people, your fellow VISTAs, are doing the same thing at the exact same time all across America. So it may seem kind of awkward to recite this oath aloud when you're alone in a room or only yourself and a witness, but really, you're taking this oath for yourself. So do it for you and make it count. Now, please raise your right hand and recite the oath aloud along with me. I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter. Yay! You're officially a VISTA.
Yeah, congratulations. We'd like to welcome you joining the newest group of AmeriCorps VISTA members. And to make this official and to get your living allowance and your other benefits going, again, there are a few important next steps. As we mentioned earlier, your VISTA oath form will unlock and you'll receive an automated email once that's available for completion. The electronic oath form, right after this webinar, it should be available. So please don't log off of the webinar yet because the form won't unlock until we finish. Now, immediately after the conclusion of the webinar, go to your account, log in at my.americorps.gov, and complete the oath form as we discussed using the oath of service link, which is located on your member homepage, and you see it there pointed out by the arrow. And as a reminder, you've got to get that done today by close of business. It only takes a minute or two, so as soon as we wrap up, you can go in and do that. And to make sure you've got the correct details, we're going to quickly review the electronic oath instructions one more time. So today is your official first day of a VISTA service. That's June 10th, 2019. Type in Khadijah Carr in the field that says name of the CNCS official who administered the oath, and then type in your name where it says e-signature, VISTA member's e-signature. Check the box under the electronic signature to constitute the e-signature as a legal signature and submit it no later than 5 o'clock today. It should be easy and quick to submit that. And please note that you won't get a response confirming it after you submit it, but you'll be able to see it, that you submitted it in your account. So once you've done it, you'll be able to click and go in and see that it was done. If there's some issue, if you don't submit your oath form, if we don't get it, it doesn't save, the VISTA Member Support Unit will contact you to let you know if there's an issue.
So now that we've gotten you all sworn in, we want to know what you thought about today's session. How can we improve this presentation for future VISTA members? We do really care about your feedback and we want to hear what you thought. So what worked for you, what didn't work for you, and we are going to use this input and this feedback to improve the session for future VISTAs. So please take a few moments to complete that brief survey, and thanks in advance for sharing your feedback. To access that survey link, first highlight or select the link in the pod, and then click Browse To. Keep in mind that double-clicking the link won't work. And for those of you that are viewing this content on phones or a tablet, the survey link may not work, but we will be posting the link in the chat. And I see that Julie has already posted it. Thanks so much. So be sure to weigh in and share your feedback in that survey. And while you contribute your feedback, we are going to answer some of the questions that you all have. All right, so I did see a lot of questions about fingerprints and saying, my supervisor did not get my fingerprint kit. What do I do? So you should have all received your fingerprint kit from your supervisor. If you did not receive that fingerprint kit, please be sure to reach out to your state office to get one. In order to reach out to your state office, you're going to want to email the state abbreviation at cns.gov. For example, if you're serving in Texas, you will type in tx at cns.gov. You will be needing that fingerprint kit, so it's very important that you get one. Included in the fingerprint kit is a member disclosure form, which gives you the opportunity to disclose any convictions that you did not previously disclose in your AmeriCorps application. There's also some helpful instructions as to how to complete and submit your fingerprints. There are also 2 blank fingerprint cards with pre-printed information on them. The information that's printed on the cards routes those fingerprints back to our agency. So once we send them off to be printed, that information is what helps our folks get them to us. So if you go to get fingerprinted and are given different cards, you will need to use the ones we submit or that we provided because of this information that's on those kits. But again, you will need to reach out to your state office to get that fingerprint kit immediately. Additionally, on the topic of fingerprint kits, you will receive a $25 subsidy in your first living allowance statement. This is not a reimbursement, but it's rather a subsidy. is going to be included in that first living allowance, and it's meant to offset the cost of fingerprinting. So it very well may be more than you pay for your fingerprints, but it also might be less than. And your supervisor does have the authority to further subsidize that fingerprint subsidy if that is needed. I did also see a question regarding fingerprinting at your project. You know, someone said, I did fingerprints for the program. Do I have to do them again for VISTA? So I'm not quite sure based on your question, but there is some sort of difference in project fingerprints than there is with VISTA fingerprints. So we have our own internal review and guidelines. So there are fingerprints that we will need to collect from you. And it's also possible that your project needs you to do a background check for your project specifically. So you'll want to double check with your supervisor to make sure that this is the fingerprint kit for your project, or if it's for the VISTA program. You'll need to double check with your supervisor on that.
Yeah, all right. So I've seen a couple of questions from folks about completing the oath form, and it's not yet unlocked. So you'll have to wait until the webinar is finished. We've got about 25 minutes to go, and then the oath form will be unlocked. You'll get an email alerting you when that happens.
I did also see a question asking about the healthcare benefits and whether or not the healthcare benefit plan, either of the two, will be subtracted from the living allowance. So no, very good question. The healthcare options that we have are not subtracted from your living allowance, so you need not worry about that. Let's see what other questions we're getting here.
Yeah, a couple folks were curious about the polo shirt and the other gear and wondering if that's required, you know, do we have to wear this same shirt every day? Is it a uniform? No, it's not. We provided a t-shirt and polo shirt for you to help advance a program and get the word out and, you know, to emphasize our branding. But it's not a requirement. We know that different sponsors have different types of dress codes. Some are more casual environments, some are more formal. So you'll need to figure out when it's appropriate or when it would make sense for you to, say, wear a t-shirt or a polo shirt for your service.
Let's see. I do see a question regarding the relocation. If you believe that you were eligible for relocation, you'll need to contact the VISTA member support unit to double check. The settling in allowance is for folks who relocated for service, meaning that you've moved more than 50 miles from your home of record to your service site. So it's really intended to help with sort of the initial settling in expenses, deposits, utilities, etc. So you'll need to double check with the VISTA member support unit if you believe you should have been included in that camp of folks and weren't. So double check with them. You can call the National Service Hotline or email vmsu@cns.gov.
All right, so I've seen a few questions relating to hours. One was asking whether this webinar and other webinars that VISTAs participate in, if those count towards your service. And yes, they do. We consider learning to be a key element of your VISTA experience, and so that does count as time served. However, I want to mention that AmeriCorps VISTA is not an hours-based program like AmeriCorps State and National. Instead, it's based on days in service. So, you serve a full year, 365 days, and you serve essentially full-time, however that's defined at your sponsoring organization. So, yeah, this webinar and others that you participate in counts towards that service time. There are a couple other folks who are asking about how they track their hours or keep a timesheet. So that's something that's done at each individual VISTA project. So check with your supervisor about what kind of timesheet or record-keeping system they use. Sometimes it's an electronic thing online. Sometimes it's a spreadsheet. Other times it could be actually a paper form that you fill out and hand in. So we don't dictate how that's done. Each organization, has its own system. So we wanted to respect that. So check with your supervisor on how you track and submit your hours.
Let's see. A follow-up question to my note around asking the state office for your fingerprint kit. If you email your state office, it sends an email to all of those that are working in that office, so the appropriate person will be able to respond once you send that email. Let's see. This is an interesting one we've not seen. Andy, are there, oh, it went away. But it was something to the effect of, can we get formal business gear such as blouses?
Yeah, I haven't seen that question before. So we don't provide any other type of apparel or uniform. So you definitely check with your supervisor to find out what the dress code is, and do what you need to comply with that. I will say that there are additional types of branded apparel that are available for purchase from National Service Gear. It's nationalservicegear.org is their website. And many VISTA sponsors will purchase, say, Oxford cloth shirts or dress shirts that have the VISTA logo embroidered on them. There's lots of other things like hoodies and track jackets and all kinds of things there. So if that's something that seems like it is going to be useful for your service, talk with your supervisor about that as well. Let's see, so a few other questions about benefits, so specifically around loan forbearance and other things related to the education awards. So if you want to put your loans into forbearance with us, you need to have selected the education award, and then once your account is activated, so after today, after we get everybody's oath form, we check and verify everything, you'll see new options will show up in the menu in your account in AmeriCorps, and under Education Award, you'll see an option to submit a forbearance request. So you can't do that today, but probably by the end of the week, you will see those options available, and then you can go in. It's not going to happen automatically. You've got to go in and submit that yourself. There was another question about tax withholding. So you filled out a W-4 form to tell us how much federal income tax withholding you want us to hold back. You can change that at any time. So, say after your first couple of paychecks, you look and you figure, this isn't the right amount coming out. You can go back in and adjust it, and you can hold back a little bit more, a little bit less, and that'll take effect in the next pay period. So it might not be in the very next pay that you get, but the next full pay period, that will go into effect.
I think also on that note, a lot of folks typically ask questions regarding where the taxes are paid, whether it's in the state you're a resident in or the state where your project is in if you are across lines. And it's where you would pay the state taxes for the state where you're serving as a VISTA. Let's see.
Let's see, Morgan asks, how can we get in touch with other VISTAs in our area? Well, on the VISTA campus, there is a map, and you can zoom in to the area where you're serving, and you'll see pins for other VISTA members. You can connect with them. It's called a learning connection through the campus. It's kind of like a friend request. You can send them a note that says, hey, I'm serving in the area. I'd love to connect. They'll get an email alerting them that you sent them a request, and they can then respond.
So I do see a question asking, what if my living costs more than my living allowance? So the living allowance is really intended to cover food, housing, and other basic necessities during the service. Amounts of the allowance are low because you're expected to live at approximately the same economic level as the people that you're serving. So there may be a case that you are receiving a smaller living allowance than your actual housing expenses. And I think my suggestion might be that you review some of the VISTA campus forums to see how other VISTAs in the past or currently are using their VISTA allowance and stretching those dollars. Additionally, you are able to have a part-time job. Of course, this job will need to be approved by your supervisor, but you'll want to make sure that your part-time job is not interfering with your VISTA position and that it doesn't have an adverse impact on your VISTA service. So once you submit that request to your supervisor, they will be able to have a conversation with you about whether or not it will conflict with your VISTA service. But definitely don't be discouraged by the living allowance because VISTAs have proven time and time again that there are ways to stretch those dollars and really can get creative with that. Are you seeing any other questions, Andy?
Let's see. So someone asked me to repeat the website where you can order additional VISTA gear, and that is nationalservicegear.org, nationalservicegear.org. And you'll see there's apparel and gear for all the different programs. So you'll want to pick AmeriCorps VISTA, and then you'll see all the stuff that's available there.
Nice. I do see a question in the chat. If there's an instance when you have to stop service, will there be penalties? So in some instances, there is an option for your education award to be sent in partial form, right? So if you have not been able to complete the entirety of your service year, you may receive a partial education award. At that time, of course, your living allowance will stop because you will no longer be serving. But I would say that those would be the biggest penalties. You do have the option to choose to be reassigned to a different VISTA service project. There are steps to doing so. It's quite difficult in some instances, but it is possible. So you'll want to talk through some of those details with your supervisor and or your state office. I'm hoping that you're able to serve fully, but of course things happen. So just know that there are options for you, and you would not be completely severed from service without any assistance with reacclimating.
Great. Just looking to see what else has come in. There's a couple.
Oh, I do see a question about travel or travel subsidies. And I'm assuming that you mean commuting to your site. If so, your daily commute from your home to your service site is your responsibility. So there's not going to be a reimbursement for that, but if you have some sort of service-related travel to another location, maybe a partner organization, or there's a service activity that everyone at your office is doing, or maybe the VISTA team, then you can certainly be reimbursed by your sponsor for that. But you'll need to ask your sponsor for details on that reimbursement process. And there are, on the project level, some project sites or sponsors that provide travel subsidies or Metro cards to VISTAs. So you'll want to check in with your supervisor to see all of what your benefits are. Oh, I see a good one here. Do you pronounce it VISTA or VISTA? So it is pronounced VISTA. Very good question. We do hear folks pronounce it incorrectly often, so glad you asked. It's pronounced VISTA, and it's pronounced AmeriCorps, like core of the earth. Not corpse, but core. So AmeriCorps, VISTA. Very good question. Seeing any more questions, Andy?
I am not. No, I think.
All right. I think I see one more question in the chat. Oh, it just came into the Q&A. Thanks, Morgan. Are we required to keep a journal for VISTA? So you're not required to keep a journal for VISTA. It's definitely a really good idea and makes for a very memorable journey if you are so interested. I served as a VISTA in 2015, and I kept a journal, and every now and then I'll flip through it and be reminded of some very funny experience I had. So I would say it's definitely worthwhile. If storytelling is something you're interested in, I would absolutely recommend it. Keeping a journal is a very good practice to have. You can start a VISTA blog or a podcast even. We've seen a lot of creative ways that VISTAs and VISTA alums share their stories, so I would definitely recommend keeping a journal, but it's certainly not a requirement. And I would say that there are some projects or sponsors that might want you to have a log of your daily activities or weekly or monthly activities, and sometimes might want you to record a blog or testimonial for the website, or to attract volunteers or other beneficiaries to the site or to your project. So that is all up to you, but I would absolutely recommend keeping a journal or logging your experience in some way.
All right, and we did just have a couple more questions about the living allowance and taxes. So just to reiterate, your living allowance is taxable income, and we, the VISTA program, will withhold federal income tax from each of your living allowance payments, so that come at the end of the year, and it's time to do taxes for the federal tax, you will have already been paying in. So you do your tax return and maybe you get a refund or maybe you pay a little bit more, but you shouldn't owe much for the federal income tax. For state income tax, we do not withhold So you will need to figure out, A, if you will owe or have to pay state income tax for the state where you're living, and B, how much. You can go to the website for your state's Department of Taxation and look up the tax table, and it'll say if you earn between this much and that much, your filing status is, say, single, this is what your tax liability would be for the year. And then you can break that up and put aside a little bit of money every pay period or every month so that next year when it's time to do your state income tax, you will have saved up whatever is going to be expected of you to pay.
All right, I don't see any additional questions. So with that, let's go ahead and wrap up the session. This is another quote from President Lyndon Johnson. You'll soon see on your screen. On your idealism and on your success rests much of our hope for the final elimination of poverty in our American life.